Hi, Pastor Jack Hughes here from Anchor Bible Church in Louisville, Kentucky. And I thought I would do a series on my favorite whatever. And this is the first one. I had somebody contact me saying, hey, I would really like to know more specifically your favorite resources for doing word studies. So that's what I'm going to show you right now using Logos Bible software. I have a couple things that I like to do. In the New Testament, I have a few resources that don't normally show up when I do, a word study. So I'm going to show you, first of all, how I do word studies, and there's multiple ways to do it depending on your level of knowledge. I just kind of cut to the chase, but I'm going to show you just real quickly how you might do it. You could use what is called an exegetical guide. So you go to the guides, you click on it, and if you go down in this list, you will see it, or you could just drag it up to the top here. It might already be in the top as a default, but you can drag whatever that you want down here, up here, so it's easy to get to. Exegetical guide is what goes through a passage, and let me just do 4:2. I'm going to increase the font size so you can see this a little better. There you go. So you kind of have your content. Have you ever done anything? You can see I've done a diagram on that text, and Logos searches that. I have custom notes. I have favorite notes. So you can see I've got my own stuff, but that's for later. This right here goes... I won't go through textual variants either. This right here goes through word by word study, the Greek English reverse interlinear. So you can see how when I put my arrow on a specific Greek word, it highlights the English word that corresponds. So even if you don't know the Greek, you can go to the English and say, okay, I want to learn about this word preach. And as soon as you click on it, it will show up down here. This does a word study for you. So you can see, for instance, this is the word kerusso. It's transliterated into English here. You can click on here.
Kerusso.
And hear it. Means proclaim, preach, basically. Here it tells you, it parses it for you, verb, aorist, active, imperative, second person. If you don't know what any of these things are, you can hold your and it tells you. You can click on it and it'll take you to the resource. So this allows people who don't have any training in the languages to learn more specifically exactly what these things are. Then you have these word study resources, and we're going to talk about those. But this is one way, if you're just getting started and you don't have any training, you probably want to use the exegetical guide. It shows up as EG here on the tab, but I'm going to close that out. So let's say you have this text right here and you want to do a word study. Well, there is another guide if you're in the New Testament and you have these resources purchased in your Logos library that will help you do some word studies. And this right here is what you do. So if I want to do the word preach, you see it's kind of highlighted there. So if I highlight the word preach or just put my arrow on it and right click, whenever you right click in Logos, it gives you these two columns. This is what you are selecting. And this column is the actions that can be performed based on what you selected over here. Now, for me, I mostly use two things from this giant column. I use the reference if I want to do some sort of specific verse note, like if I usually click on this when I want to add a note to a specific verse. You can see these here. These are different notes, a quote from Tyndale, something here that I did at a preaching in a sermon, and here's tells me a resource to go to on this day, a daily historical devotion about the boy preacher. the prophet's courage. These are just different resources. And if I were to click on these, it would open up that resource here. I have it anchored to different verses, but you can see here, this is something from Spurgeon that I put in there. So these are just notes that are attached, so don't let those distract you. So I have this word preach, and I want to do a word study on it. But there are some resources that don't show up in your normal word study. They're more like commentaries. And so if you wanted to do this, you would have to go to what is called the Passage Guide. So we looked at the exegetical guide before. This is the Passage Guide. Let me just click on that. Now we have our verse reference here, 2 Timothy 4:2, which is what we want to search. So if I just hit enter, what it does is it, again, goes to my content. It opens up all these commentaries. Now, it does more things, important passage, cross-references, whatever. But I mostly use commentaries. But I want to show you these first 3 resources right here, which are more word study resources than they are commentaries. So they're kind of like in between. And a lot of times they don't show up if you do a standard word study, which I will also show you. But these 3 resources are very helpful. This is Word Studies in the New Testament by Marvin Vincent. Let me just show you what this is. And again, I'll make this big so you can see it. Let me just do it in a floating window too. There you are. So it goes through, it says be instant, tells you this. Notice it gives you the Greek, it gives you some frequency, it tells you something to come suddenly upon, to be ready. It just gives you a little word study stuff. So it goes through verse 2, and it talks about in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, and it basically gives you little word studies that have to do with that work. And that's pretty much all there is here. So this is actually a word study work. And so if you're saying, so what is this resource again? Let me show you. This is Word Studies in the New Testament by Marvin R. Vincent. It's a kind of a classic one. Anyways, there it is. It just tells you about it. You can get that information and find it, purchase it in Logos, or get a hard copy if you're not using a computer to study with, but I would use a computer. Let's look at this other resource here. This is Hughes Word Studies right here. And so let me, again, open this up in a floating window. Let me increase the size of the font so you can see. Let me get it up big. Okay, there we go. The same kind of thing happens that Hughes does here. He goes through, this is verse 2 of 2 Timothy 4, and he just talks about the meanings of key words, gives a little commentary based on the words. You can see this is a real critical verse. He goes on, but he's talking about different words and what they mean, and what rebuke means or whatever. So this is more of a word study resource, even though it doesn't show up in your standard word study searches. So let me show you the information on this. Information. There it is, Hughes, Word Studies in the Greek New Testament. There you go, Kenneth Hughes. It's a kind of a classic work also. And then finally, we have Word Pictures in the New Testament. And again, I'll open this up in a floating window and make the text really big so you can see it. There you go. So Robertson, A.T. Robertson, disciple of John Broadus, one of the early founders of Southern Seminary. They're buried next to each other. He's actually buried in the shadow of John Broadus's tomb in Cave Hill Cemetery. If you want to go there, if you're ever in Louisville, you can see it. But preach the word, gives you the phrase, kind of parses it, gives you some parallel texts. It speaks of in season and out of season, take a stand, stand upon it, carry it, reprove, rebuke. Notice just the same kind of thing. These are just kind of key words, their meanings. So these 3 resources, and let me again show you what this is, give you the information so you can see it. Word Pictures in the New Testament, and then Hughes Word Studies, and Marvin Vincent's word studies. These 3 resources usually show up when you do a passage guide search if you have these resources in your library. I would recommend them. All 3 are excellent. And so if I'm doing word studies, I like these resources right here. So that's from the passage guide, not your standard word study. But let's just say I'm in 2 Timothy 4:2 and I want to do a word study on preach the word. I can just right click on it and notice how now this is highlighted. So I can't do a word study yet. I have to go down and you always select the lema. The lema is the word, kind of the basic root word that appears in all the theological dictionaries and lexicons to help you understand the meaning. And you can also click here. This is the form that's actually in the manuscript itself, what's in the text itself. But of course, Greek and Hebrew are inflected, so they have a lot of different forms. And so this is kind of, the lema is the standard form. And then you also have the root word right here, and sometimes you have a compound word, so you'll have a couple root words. But in this instance, if you're doing a word study, you always want to do the lema, and you go down here to, okay, I want to do a Bible word study. And when you click on this right here, it opens up this Bible word study window. So here I am. I've got these words. The word is keruso. And again, it shows you what's in the text. And again, you can
Keruso.
click on there if you want to hear how it's pronounced. This is the transliteration. This is the basic meaning of the word, kind of the gloss, just the quick summary, some different forms. Anyways, these are different resources. I'm going to open this up a little bit so you can see more of these. I mean, it's like goes down, doesn't it? So which ones do I like? I usually start out when I'm doing word studies, I do the simplest resource first, kind of the basic standard resource first, and then I go to more complex and more in depth. Because a lot of times when I'm studying, I do one of these, I just hover my arrow over it, and then it shows you what's in this resource here, which is in the Strong's Enhanced Lexicon. So the ESL, let me just click on this. Let me just open this. Let me make the font bigger. There you go. And let me give you the information so you can kind of see it right here. Okay. This is a enhanced lexicon. So notice the enhanced lexicon, everybody knows what Strong's is, but they've taken Strong's number system, and since it's tied to Brown Drivers Briggs lexicon and Thayer's lexicon, they basically added Thayer and Brown Drivers Briggs lexicon to the definitions that were already in Strong's lexicon to make it enhanced. So that's what that means, the Strong Enhanced Lexicon. And then you have your word, keruso, and there's the definition. So that's one definition of, or one lexicon resource, one theological dictionary. Then you can look at other ones. Now, let me just do this and show you this other one. This is Vine's Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words. So I'm going to click on it. Again, I'll open it in a floating window. I will show you the information. There it is. Let me get the font bigger. Sorry about that. There it is. This is a good resource, a standard resource. It's more user-friendly for those who don't know the languages. Pretty simple, basic. But notice it goes through the word. It tells you the kind of the transliteration. It gives you the Greek, gives you the Strong's number, and it tells you about the word. It gives you different forms. Here's the word keruso, the one that's in our text. These are all the words that are translated preacher preaching, which is kind of helpful. So euangelizo, or you can have, keruso. And anyways, he's going down through and talking about, you want to find the word that you need to find. So he's going to list all of them here regardless if they're translated preacher preaching, usually in the King James, then it will show up that way. So this is a super good resource. It will help you understand what the word caruso means. Here's another resource that I really like. This is Brown Drivers Briggs Greek Dictionary. So let me again expand this up so you can see it. Open it up in a floating window. You can see the information here. There you go. This is classic work. Bauer, Gingrich, and Danker. You can just see it about there. We'll do done. And here's our word, caruso. And if you haven't had any training in the languages, this might be a little bit of, scary because it's got this, whatever that is, imperfect. Anyways, aorist passive is what that means. But in Logos, you can just hold your arrow on it and it'll tell you what it means. So if you don't know, future, there it is. But even if this is, you can just scan all this stuff. But notice it means to mount, announce, to make known, to proclaim loudly, a proclamation that is sacral in nature. Anyways, you can just go down here and read all the stuff. Notice how this resource is getting quite a bit more technical and giving you more information. So I've got my resources set up when I do a word study, so they're kind of in the order of magnitude. Not all, but these are my favorite ones: Enhanced Strong Lexicon, Vines, Bauer, Gingrich, and Danker. And then this right here, let me just click on it so you can see this too. I'll just show you these ones I put up front. I kind of put them up front for different reasons, but you'll see why in just a minute. Let me get this open to a floating window. Okay, this right here is Information Dictionary of Biblical Languages with Semantic Domains, Greek New Testament. There it is. This is pretty good. It's a Logos Research Edition. I kind of like it. It gives you some good stuff. Just kind of tells you an official capacity, announce publicly, proclaim, the goal to persuade, urge. There you go. This right here, this next work, is the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, abridged. That's what the A stands for. Notice if you go down here, I can go to the major one. This is like one of the biggest word studies, Gerhard Kettle's work, which is massive, like I don't know how many volumes. I used to have the paper volume, but I got rid of it because I have it on Logos now, but it's massive. It tells you all the usages within the Bible, outside the Bible, and, ancient Greek and, Septuagint and just all that stuff. So what they did with the Theological Dictionary of the New Testament is they decided to take the resources and then all that information and pretty much try to put in the abridged version what relates to the Bible only. So they kind of summarize all the extraneous stuff or leave it out altogether, and they give you the abridged, the condensed, what relates to the Bible. Because, you don't want to read 20, 30 pages of stuff unless you're like really wanting to, do some dissertation or something. Then you'd probably be good to maybe crunch through the whole thing. But notice here you have here's our word caruso, and it gives you again the gloss. But if you go here, here's kerux, which is what the word comes from. It tells you about that. And if you go down, notice it tells you this is all condensed: Herald, the Jewish world, kerux in the New Testament, keruso in the Greek world, keruso in the Old Testament. That is, it would be referencing the Septuagint, since the Septuagint is a Greek translation of the Old Testament done around 150 BC, which was used by Jesus and the apostles. And if you go down, keruso in the New Testament, now we're finally getting to New Testament stuff, but you can see how much information there is. And this right here gives you all of these uses and tells you all these things about different usage, different people, the apostles, John the Baptist, Jesus, you can see. And then you finally get to kerygma. So notice how these resources work. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when I do these things, you can prioritize the books and how they appear here. You can make them show up. So some of these I never reference. So mostly in Strong's Enhanced Lexicon, Vine's Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words, Bauer, Gingrich, and Danker. Sometimes Lauanita or Lauanita's, this is similar to Logos Research's Semantic Domains Word Search, very similar. Theological Dictionary, Abridged. Then you can see these other ones here. There's just all kinds of them, but mostly these ones here. And so you can take your resources and prioritize them, and you can find information on that in Logos website, logos.com, training videos, or I would recommend John Fallahy's learnlogos.com, where John has videos on every single aspect of Logos, and you can contact him and find out. That's probably the best, most comprehensive way to learn Logos Bible software. Anyways, all of these things right here are, available. I hardly ever go down here because I've got everything prioritized. So pretty much all these here in this first 10 of them are what I use. Usually these first 5 that I might go here. This is, let me just show you this so you can see. Might as well show you everything, while we're at it, if you want to know. Complete Word Study Dictionary of the New Testament, Zodiades. Okay, so that's what that is. He kind of goes through, hits some basic stuff there. It's not super in depth. Sometimes I look at that. Again, this is, let me show you this one here. Get this expanded. Get the information. Okay, Greek English Lexicon. Again, this is a Logos version, but it's good. Excellent. There it is. You can see how it gives you the data. A lot of these are very similar. So anyways, then Lauanita's, and you can just go down. This is the big Kittle here. This is the unabridged version. Let me just show you this for fun, why I like the abridged Kittle, so I don't get overwhelmed. Okay, so this right here is the unabridged Theological Dictionary of the New Testament. Let me just do this here again so you can see it. And again, you can get this in full-blown version, which is right here, and then you can also get it in abridged, but I want to show you how much information if you want to do a word study and you want to just kill the subject. So this is just K-Rooks right here. So we're just going to go through K-Rooks so you can kind of see it. I'm not going to stop here until I get to K-Russo. Now we're in K-Russo. Now, you want to learn about K-Russo? Then you could read this and read and read and read and read and read. You get the point, right? It's massive. So anyways, that's why when I'm doing a word study, I usually start with the easiest, Strong Enhanced Lexicon, which has Strong's, Thayer's, Brown, Drivers, Briggs. Then I have Vine's Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words, Bauer, Gingrich, and Danker, Theological Dictionary of the New Testament, on down. But usually these first 5 get me what I want, and I'm good. But what if you're in the Old Testament? So let me just go through here. We have an Old Testament text, and here we have Deuteronomy 8:3. You can see this is Deuteronomy chapter 8, and there's the great text here that Jesus quoted to Satan, that man lives by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of the Lord. I want to do maybe a word search on humble, so I can highlight it, and in the same thing, but now we're in Hebrew, right? So if I want to do a word search, I need to make sure it says lima there, which is this is highlighted, the second. Again, this is what's in the manuscript. This is the root word, or the standard lexicon word, and this is the root word right here. So I want lima, and then I do word study, and it's actually going to bring up this. I already did it. So let me just expand this so you can kind of see, and I'll show you my favorite Hebrew word study resources as well. We'll expand this a little bit more. Notice, Enhanced Strong's Lexicon is still at the top, and we've already covered that, so I won't cover it again. Here's Vine's Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words. I'm not going to cover it because we already did that. But here's the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. Let me click this. Let me open this and make it big and show you what this resource is. So when I'm doing a Hebrew word study, then I like this resource right here. It's really great. It kind of, to afflict, to oppress, to humble. You can see 1652 is one of the ways it's translated, and I want to know about that, so I can go down and read. But let me just show you the information on here so you can see it. There it is. Okay, this is kind of a classic Gleason Archer, Robert Arler, Harris, Waltke, standard work. It's really great. I like to use this for Hebrew word studies. It tells you, notice about the word, what it means in different verb tenses and stuff, and then you get to a different word there. So that's the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. I also like Brown Driver's Briggs. Now remember, this is included with the Strong's Enhanced Lexicon. Some of the basics, but this is kind of the more geeky version, which gives you a lot more references and to be bowed down, to be afflicted. Remember, we're looking at the word humbled right here. So you can see this is what it means to thwart, to first do violence to. Anyways, you can just go down here and it talks about, it might have different meanings in different verb tense, to be put down, to become low. Anyways, you can just see it right here in the hifil, depress, cast down, nifil, pl, whatever. You can do that. If you don't know what that is, again, you'd have to do the other exegetical word search, and then all these words that you might not know, like peel, if you don't know what that means, if you do the exegetical one and you click on the word humble, it'll break it all down, and you can click on all the pieces, which we did earlier. It works the same way for the Hebrew. But anyways, that's the Hance Brown Driver's Briggs Hebrew English Lexicon, kind of a standard work. This one right here, let me just click on this. Let me just show you some of these here. My first kind of 5 best ones that I use for different, here's the information. Logos Research System, Dictionary of Biblical Languages with semantic meaning. So this is the parallel of the other one. Same guy did it. It's great. If you look, you can kind of see, I've got a word that I'm looking for here. I'm trying to find out what it is. So this is my word, okay? So I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's like, okay, what is my word? I know there's a couple different forms of it. Do fast and put it on a place. There it is. Lots of different things you can look at, different forms of kind of the same 3 consonants, and they mean different things when they have different pointings or whatever. But if you don't know anything about Hebrew, this might be a little overwhelming to you. That's why it's better to maybe do the exegetical guide. But anyways, I like the resource, the Logos's thing. And then this is a really good resource that I also like, and this is kind of a standard, one of my favorites when I'm looking at, let's do information. Let me just open this up here. A floating window. The Hebrew Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, Halot. It's kind of Brown Drivers Briggs is an older work. This one here is just more expansive, and it's good. I like this as well as the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. They give you more intel usually. So you can see here, everything's kind of laid out. Talks about the word being wretched, emaciated, crouched, hunched, suffering. It just tells you about the word, to become weak, to bow down. This is in the PL, in the perfect tense or whatever. You just go through here, and again, if you don't know any Hebrew, you probably want to go to your, let's just do it, exegetical guide right here, Deuteronomy. Let's do verse 3. So it has our word. So all these squiggles here, you don't read, let's say, but you know the word humbled. So this tells you, why is it when I put the arrow on there that it highlighted he humbled you? Because in the Hebrew, it's one word, and stuck to the front of the word is he, and the end is you, or whatever. It gives you, it's inflected. It gives you intel that has the verb tense or whatever. But I'm going to click on it, and when I do, it gives you everything you need right here. So it starts out with this thing, this wow, which is kind of a connector thing, a conjunction, and we're going to skip that and get to the he humbled you part. Here's the word in Hebrew, and I could click on that and it'll show me, well, I could do other stuff too, but here's the word.
Ana.
It tells you.
Ana.
There it is, be wretched, emaciated, whatever. It's a verb, and then you don't know what PL means. There it is, third person, masculine, singular. So the exegetical guide is better if you don't have any training in the original languages. You can get to what all these weird little terms mean for a specific word. There it is. And then all the same things appear that appeared when we did our standard word search. Right there. Same thing. Okay, so that's a little bit about my favorite word study resources, how to get to them, and hope that was helpful, and will encourage you to maybe get some of those works and use them because they're great. All right, until next time.
DrivenNails.com is a user-supported ministry.